Hello and welcome back to Downforce Debrief, where last week we had a week off. Accidentally, I was running the London Marathon, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. GB was in Spain, so apologies for missing a week there, but that's not a bad run there of consecutive weeks, so we'll take it. But back again now to talk, of course, about the Miami Grand Prix. There's lots to talk about, including Max Verstappen's various things, lots of different drivers, Racecraft, and of course, those famous Ferrari Strats. But let's get straight into the race rating. George, what do you think of the Miami Grand Prix?
I enjoyed it. I think the weekend as a whole, very, very good. I think it surprised a lot of people from particularly the sprint race being so entertaining. The qualifying sessions were great. I actually missed sprint quali because I was live at the time, but I went back and watched the highlights and again, just enjoyed every session. I think the race was largely entertaining thanks to Max Verstappen, which of course we'll get onto. But yeah, good. I mean, look, if I'm going to give it a rating, I'd give the weekend as a whole, I reckon, an 8 out of 10 for the whole package. I think for the race, first 19 laps, 9 out of 10. After that, 5 out of 10. So I give the race a 7. 7 for the race.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with that, to be honest. I thoroughly enjoyed the weekend. And do you know what's interesting is, sprint races, they get a lot of stick. People say they don't like them, yada, yada. I've actually unlocked the secret to enjoying a sprint race weekend accidentally. Because what I've done this weekend is I didn't watch any of it live. Not a single session I watched live, which it's sport. People like to watch live sport. I get that. But it's actually meant I've had loads to watch. So sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and if it's the first thing I'll do, I'll get to watch some F1, which is great. So watching it on my own schedule has allowed me to have more stuff to enjoy over the weekend, which I've enjoyed. I think when you set yourself, I've got to watch all of it live, that's when things like the sprints, you think, it's a lot of time that I've got to dedicate to my weekend, set time to set aside to watch the sprints, to 2 qualifyings and 2 races. But yeah, when you watch on your own time, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, obviously the actual on-track action was absolutely banging, especially, we had some rain in Miami, which was a bit of a surprise. And that sprint was obviously amazing.
You're definitely not getting hired by the marketing department for F1. Moral of the story, don't watch F1 live.
Yeah, but I mean, welcome to 2025, right? Like, who watches live TV and things like that anymore? Like, we watch stuff on demand all the time. On demand is the thing. You want it on your phone whenever you want it. I wonder if, because Sky don't really allow on demand very easily in the UK. I wonder if Sky had proper on demand where you could very easily, like you can in the F1 TV app or the MotoGP app, for example. I wonder if you could have proper easy on demand watching of stuff. I wonder if the general negativity towards the sprints would reduce. I think it would, because genuinely, just it being easy to watch like that, whenever I wanted to watch it, improved it loads. But yeah, as you said, I don't think F1 will be angling for less people to watch it live, that's for sure. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You're still watching it, still enjoying it. But yeah, I do agree, though. Absolute bang. I think, yeah, I'd give the weekend as a whole 8 out of 10. Really, really liked it. I do agree. I think the main race wasn't the best race, but it was decent. It was decent enough. There was just enough going on there. The tyres were degrading and stuff. Like it was interesting enough. I think Ferrari definitely helped with that, though, which we'll get onto in a little while with their various strats. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and good job too, because they renewed the Miami Grand Prix until 2041.
Insane.
Which, like, what? I don't like this. I don't like, because who knows what's going to happen? What's F1 going to look like in, 16 years' time? What is F1 going to look like? Nobody knows what the hell the cars will look like, the engines will be like.
Yeah. And do you know the depressing thing, mate, is I realised when that contract is nearly expiring, I will be nearly 50 years old.
And you'll still have the most incredible hairline in the world, so.
Of course, not a single grey hair.
But yeah, I don't know. I think this is too long. Like, obviously renew for maybe up to, let's say, 5 years. Like, I get, there's negotiations and benefits of doing so, especially if you're building a track. Like, if you're building a track, you need a reasonable contract to be able to justify building that track. But this is too long. Like, they've built the track now. I just don't see why they've done this. It just seems money must be the answer, but it's just silly. It's too much. It might get to the point where actually Miami isn't the most popular race. I actually don't mind it. I think it's all right. But it might get to the point where the races are like Monaco level of like boring because maybe the cars get all electric and they're just too heavy for that layout or whatever. And then you're stuck with it for so long. I don't know. What do you think about these long renewals? Do you mind them?
No, the long renewals in general as a concept is silly, right? How can you plan 16 years ahead? I agree. It's got to just be money related. So it's not what we want to see. Even for like any track, even for the tracks that I love, like the Silverstones. It's like, why are we renewing for 16 years? It doesn't make any sense to me. But I would say that probably the perception we have of this, there's a lot of negativity on socials, which I also completely vibe with as well. But we just had a really good race weekend. So maybe perhaps if that had been announced afterwards, I would still have the same opinion, of course, on the contract length, but at least then we would be saying, because me personally, I've not enjoyed a Miami race before. I mean, Lando made headlines last year getting his first win there, but let's not kid ourselves. It was still a boring race. We've not had an actual good spectacle at Miami until the race just gone. So yeah, maybe that is doing it some more favors now, because if you tell me, well, we'll get 16 more years of what we just watched over the weekend, great, bring it on. But in general, yeah, the 16-year contract thing, it just does not make any sense.
It's like they should also be exploring other layouts, which they may be able to do within this contract. But I've always liked the idea, I've said it before, of alternating races. Like maybe 1 year have Vegas, 1 year have Miami, alternate the two. Because it gives you something to look forward to. Like, oh, all right, we had Vegas last year. That was, maybe a stink of a race. But next year we'll have Miami. Maybe that'll be good this year. I just think it keeps F1 really interesting. But to guarantee, especially with how packed the calendar is, right? They're struggling to fit in new races that want to come on the calendar. To then guarantee that race for 16 years, just, I don't know. It seems crazy to me, but clearly they wanted the payday for Miami. But
yeah, like from a fan perspective, I agree. I think it's a good idea to like rotate it, but I don't know whether that is actually possible, because obviously these venues cost money to upkeep and whatever else goes on in the background that I don't fully understand. There's clearly a lot of money involved to actually run the venue. Silverstone's always a talking point for that because it costs them so much. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would be possible for a place like Miami, which obviously has had a lot of investment and with the Hard Rock Cafe Stadium and everything else going on. I don't know how that works. So it'd be interesting to find out, because I completely agree. If we could shake it up and have a bit of a rotation, that would also work for the FIA or FOM, sorry, because then they could just bring in more races almost and kind of sell that to the fans better by keeping a more varied calendar and bringing in the circuits they want, while also keeping it fresh and not just pumping loads of like artificial circuits at us. So, I don't know. I quite like that idea.
Exactly. It just allow more tracks onto the calendar. They're struggling to fit more, so why not just alternate them? I just think I've always been a big fan of this, but clearly they're not for whatever reason. But as you said, if we get 16 more of the races we had over the weekend, we won't be complaining. But yeah, maybe it's not been the most popular in the past, and maybe in the future people will be ruining that long contract potentially. But yes, let's move on then to Max Verstappen. Now, we've got a whole talking point at him. I've got a bit to say on Max. I actually think he was very lucky this weekend with the stewards. I think they treated him very, very kindly. First up, you got him blocking Stroll in quali. I have got no idea how that wasn't a penalty, because he did impede Stroll. He was going slowly on the racing line while Stroll came up behind him and had to go around him off the racing line. And Stroll got knocked out in Q1. I'm not saying Stroll wouldn't have got knocked out in Q1 if it wasn't for that. But is there someone that mattered? Because if it's someone like Piastri who got through anyway, it's kind of like, oh, well, it didn't really matter. But it mattered to Stroll. So I cannot believe that this wasn't a penalty. What did you think about this, George? Did you notice this?
I actually didn't see it. I missed that. I didn't realise. I was expecting you to say about, we'll obviously move on to it, the lap one incident with Lando. But no, I didn't. I wasn't aware that he fully, like, was it like Stroll was,
it was into the final corner. He was just sat on the racing line, just doing, quarter of the speed because he was set up to do his lap and just didn't get out of the way. So Stroll had to go around him. And basically, I think as Stroll was hitting the brakes, he wasn't back to the racing line yet. So it was pretty much like right at the start of the braking point that Max was sat going very slowly. So don't get me wrong, it didn't affect Stroll that much, but that's impeding. He was on the racing line when someone else on a hot lap, and he had to alter his line to go around him. I don't know how the hell this wasn't penalised.
I'm assuming this was reported by Aston and then investigated by the stewards.
I don't even know if it was investigated. I didn't see notification about investigation, but definitely he didn't get any kind of grid drop, which just seems crazy to me personally. But
do you reckon all these Verstappen rumours to Aston is maybe proper conspiracy right there?
Maybe there's some Dutch bias in F1 these days. Maybe that's what it is. But so there was that. Then you've got his unsafe release in the sprint race. He was released into the path of Kimi Antonelli, who had to basically do a drive-through because he wasn't able to pit. Now, he did get a penalty for this. He got a 10-second penalty. But to me, that is not harsh enough. They literally released him. They caused a crash in the pit lane when there's, I mean, how many people is there? 15 people per car, all stood there. It was only Antonelli being smart and just completely bailing out the second he saw it that didn't cause potentially a lot of broken bones in that. Now, I know there wasn't broken bones, but there was damaged cars. It massively shafted Kimi's race. A 10-second penalty for that. Don't get me wrong, I know Max also got shafted by it because obviously it dropped him right to the back, yada yada, and actually giving him a 30-second penalty wouldn't have changed his race because he still would have been in the back. But that's not really the point. 10 seconds is not harsh enough for not just, I mean, it wasn't really an unsafe release. They caused a crash in front of lots of mechanics. That was so dangerous. I cannot believe you only got 10 for that. George, come on. What do you think?
Yeah. Where do you draw the line between an unsafe release and then literally like causing a collision and risk, like a serious risk of a bad incident as a result of it? Obviously, this one wasn't Max's doing whatsoever. He has to bear the penalty as the driver. It was the team's calamity again. And I do want to mention that because Red Bull have had an absolute stinker through pretty much most of the races so far on either pit stops, on just decision making in these moments is really bizarre. Like strategy wise, they've been pretty solid as always, but I don't know what's going on with their pit stop team. They've been, I don't know how many years they've been considered the benchmark, the best of the best when it comes to the pit stops, but they've been, I'd say, probably the worst on the grid so far this season. It's bizarre.
There's a lot of talk of, is it Jonathan Wheatley, who I think was their sporting director, I want to say, who's left. And there's a lot of talk about it being him, but like I just can't believe that. And an organisation so big, with so many processes in place and so much training and practice and so much money on the line, I can't believe that one person leading would directly affect the pit stops that much. I can see how maybe their average pit stop time would increase a little bit because of, maybe improper methods and things like that. But you're right, because it's been regularly bad pit stops and just stuff like this going wrong. But maybe it just is him. I mean, if it is him, then that's a great compliment to him, isn't it? The fact that the Red Bull team pit stops have crumbled because one guy left. So fair play to him. Go back then to Max Verstappen's lenient FIA treatment this weekend. I also forgot one before about him going too slowly in quali. So they have a minimum time that they have to do. They have to go at least X speed on their ins and out laps. It's to stop people crawling around dangerously, just getting in the way. Which is why they go really slowly in the pit lane, so they can create that gap because they can't create it on track. But he went 6 seconds too slowly on one of his laps. Now, the reason he wasn't penalised for this was because basically they realised it was wrong and they said, hey, Max, we've programmed your car wrong. Make sure you're going at least 6 seconds quicker than the delta you get on your steering wheel. Otherwise, we get a penalty. And I get that. And honestly, I'm not actually calling for a penalty for this because I think he didn't get in anyone's way anyway. It doesn't really matter. But they said, we reprimanded the team. Or did they fine the team? Whatever it was. But they were like, but it was the team's fault. But like, F1's a team sport. As you said, it wasn't Max's fault that he caused a collision in the pit lane, but Max still gets the penalty. So I don't really understand why they said, just the team programmed the car wrong, so it's fine. I thought that was a bit weird, but equally, I wouldn't want to see him get punished for that. But that was just another thing that he did that was technically illegal that he got away with this weekend. And then finally, you mentioned it, George, earlier. You got the Lando Norris collision in the main race, lap 1, turn 2, which, I don't know. I feel like by the current regulations, it was probably okay that he got away with that, but it was definitely a marginal one that could have seen a penalty in another scenario. So I think he maybe got away with it a little bit because it was definitely very marginal. I mean, Lando was at least level, if not very slightly ahead, going what was effectively around the outside of turn 2. But then because Max just yeeted his car in there and, okay, I know he slid, but he slid because he was flooring the throttle desperately, trying to make sure he stayed ahead of Lando for exactly this reason and shoved him off. I think it was dumber for Lando to try and go for that against someone like Max on that one, especially with, look how quick their car was, for God's sake. Like, he didn't need to be risking that. He could open the wall. So I think it's dumb of Lando, but regardless of that, I do think, again, Max, I think the right decision was made, but he definitely could have got a penalty there and didn't. What did you think about this? Do you think he should have been penalised?
I watched an Ant Davidson really good analysis on Piastri's Racecraft and Lando in general, which is just alluding to your last point on like Lando being a bit dumb for just like not sitting behind, because obviously with hindsight, I mean, Lando actually said, he was asked that question with hindsight, would you have done that differently? And he said, no, I'm a racer. There was a gap there. And why wouldn't you go for it? When you actually watch the incident back, Max defends so hard into turn one. Lando kind of reads it, gets the cutback, does everything right. And as you said, at the time, I was seething with rage because we touched on this in previous podcasts. I cannot stand drivers that don't want to race side by side. Like, I'm not saying we should just la-di-da around and give everyone the perfect amount of space, but like, I really can't stand the, we're going to crash if you go side by side here because I'm going to run you off. I hate that mindset. I really, really hate it. Been watching Formula One for a long time now. Can't stand that new kind of, it feels like a new mentality and attitude these days. And that's what I felt in the incident. And to be fair, when I watched it back, I didn't notice at the time that Verstappen did slide turn two, which did cause that. But ultimately, I would still expect a penalty because the collision and Lando being shoved off has happened as a result of a mistake from Max. So regardless of how you deem it, whether it's intentional or not, it is causing a collision by the rulebook. And I'm surprised that we didn't see a 5-second penalty instead of a 10, because it's obviously lap one, applied like it was in Jeddah. So yeah, very, very surprised with that. I also realized, I think I might be getting this wrong now, but I think before the race, Max was 4 points away from getting a race ban on his driver's license. Because of the number of points he's racked up. So obviously, if that happened, I believe it's 2 points on the license for an incident like that. And again, like, this is, who knows, right? I'm just throwing it out there, but clearly people want to. We don't want to see Verstappen get a race ban, do we? Clearly not. We want to see everyone driving and see the title play out. But I'm just kind of thinking of things like this and wondering, like, is this having a potential influence? Because for me, it wasn't. It was like slam dunk. It was like, well, literally, there's been a clear collision caused by Max. Lando's gone off. That's surely a penalty. Like, lap one or not, that has to be a penalty. You
literally thought it was like almost a guarantee penalty coming. Really?
I'm amazed that so many don't agree with me, and that's fine. I'm happy to hear it, because if you think differently as well, I want to hear your justification. But I've watched it back. I watched the replay because I was like, have I got this wrong? So many people think that this was no further action. I need to go and review this. And I watched it back, and yeah, I was like, oh, okay, fair play. He did slide. I was mistaken. He didn't just run Lando off like intentionally, but he did still cause a collision. Lando was alongside. He was not behind. He was clearly alongside. There was no Max's corner or whatever. How is that not a penalty? I couldn't believe it.
I hate this defense. He did slide, but that's not a defense, because he slid because he was throwing the throttle, right? Yeah. Like, because he was desperate to get ahead of him. So like, I don't think that really matters. I think I can see why it was no action given the rules as they are. So yes, Lando was just slightly ahead of him, maybe going into the corner, but actually at the apex of the corner, because Max had just full throttled it in and was sliding around everywhere, and Lando already started backing out. Actually, Lando wasn't ahead anymore. So, like, by the rules of F1, he doesn't deserve space, which we'll get into a second, and whether that should be a thing. It's an interesting cause in the collision one, though. Yeah, I just think, do you not think it'd be harsher? Because, like, causing a collision, it's what we said before, though. If Lando stays there and there was a bigger crash, yes, you maybe would say, because Lando jumped off the track, there wasn't a collision. But regardless of any of that, I do agree. I don't like seeing this kind of racing. It's modern F1. It's the Max Verstappen style of racing. The rules are the rules. I would like to see the rules change, because I don't want to see this kind of thing, especially as this year we've seen Piastri do it now a couple times, whereby apparently if you're up the inside, you only need to be, your front axle needs to be level with their wing mirror, which is like not even ahead of them. And if you're up the inside, you can then just shove them off, which just seems like, what?
Well, that's literally what he did to Antonelli in the sprint, wasn't it? Turn one. Same,
and in Jeddah, same thing. Turn one on, was it Max? Got Max a penalty for that. Like, I don't like the rules, but as they are, I'm not that surprised there wasn't a penalty. It definitely could have gone a different way on a different day, but I think I don't think it's as clear cut as you do based on the rules as they are. But I do think we should be not allowing this, because it's just not good racing, is it? Like, it'd be so much better if he was forced even a bit of room, and it'd have been so much spicier. Instead, he just gets shoved off and drives through a puddle, and and then that's it. You can't fight for the win now because you lost so much time.
This for me is why you especially, I've also given Lando a bit of stick in recent races. He deserves it. He's a lot of criticism.
Me? Nah, I'm not. There's no criticism from my side for Lando for the last few episodes. What do you mean?
No one, not even the most diehard of Lando fans, can defend and say he's driven amazingly so far this season. Right? I get it. But I actually thought he was really good at Miami. I don't think, aside from. Oh no, quali. No, quali he made mistakes on his lap, but he still outqualified Piastri, 2 positions ahead as well. The only reason Piastri got ahead of him was because of that incident, which, again, like every time I watch that replay back of turn 2 collision with Max, it's like, why would you sit behind there? It doesn't make any sense. His momentum is so slow. You've got cars barreling, up behind you as well. Why would you sit behind there? And yeah, I don't know. It's. I think if it's Piastri or any other driver, I think everyone else goes side by side with Max there. I don't know why you would not go for that.
It's a good segue because our next topic is just on racecraft in general. So we've got a number of drivers here to talk about. So yeah, let's start with Lando. I do agree. What I found quite genuinely funny, and I know I turned it into a bit of a Lando hater. I don't mean to. I do think he's a good driver. But I genuinely found it quite funny in that race how Max Verstappen has got Lando Norris in the palm of his hand. When those two race together, Lando he's like, he knows he's going to be aggressive. So he goes for these moves that causes Max to be aggressive against him. And then will just automatically moan on the radio when exactly what you'd expect to happen happens. And B, will just like back out of it and just moan. And it's like, what are you doing? Turn 2 is a good example of that. And I do agree. I'm not surprised he went for it because Max went quite deep. He did have a good run. He literally got ahead of him at one point. But if you're just going to jump out of the way the second Max comes anywhere near you, why bother going for it in the first place? It was just so weird. And we saw this later on as well when he was trying to get past Max once the tyre wear started to kick in. And it was the same thing. It was like, don't try and go around the outside of Max, buddy. You've got to be so far ahead. He is not going to give you room. Don't try it. It's all very well and coming on the radio. He shoved me off. Who cares? Just deal with it. And do you know who did deal with it? Oscar Piastri, my goat. What a weekend from him in terms of racecraft, because yeah, okay, we don't love to see him shoving off Antonelli in the start of the sprint, but the rules are the rules. He did it well. He should have won the sprint, obviously, if Lando didn't luck with the safety car. But then battling Max as well, he was just perfect. Like, he took his time. It took him maybe 5 or so laps to get past. But you didn't hear him going, oh, he shoved me off, yada yada yada. He just knew that Max was going to move very late. I'm not going to say moving in the braking because it wasn't quite that, but he knew he was going to move very late. So he didn't do what Lando would normally do and go to good on the inside and never locking your tyres, going off the track. Because he was like, I know Max is going to move late to the inside. I'll let him do it. I'll stay to the outside. I'll try for a switchback. And I feel like Piastri has got the handle of Max, which is considering how good Max is at racing, the fact that we're saying a relatively newcomer to F1 has got the handle of him and Lando Norris hasn't.
So I agree with your take on Piastri. I disagree with how he approached with Max. I actually thought he was even more intelligent than that. Again, I watched the analysis of it afterwards, and what looked like a simple switchback was actually him forcing Max into a mistake. What he did was he went into turn 1, and instead of taking the curb and going on the outside on their normal braking point, he actually squeezed Max to the inside slightly. He pinched him into turn 1, and while he wasn't trying to hang it round the outside initially, he kind of just put Max in a really awkward situation by himself being a little bit aggressive and at least just showing Max, I'm not just going to sit, on the outside and let you push me out the way. And then once he kind of did that and pinched Max and kind of put him in that position, he then saw as they were going into the corner that obviously Max was going too deep and then locked up. And that's how he pulled off the switchback. So it was kind of because Lando did try that. He did try to do the same move, but it was exactly how you said it. It was the fact that he would kind of make that initial move around the outside, but he would just kind of it was just like a half-assed, just I'm going to keep my car here on, in normal line into the corner and then expect Max to brake deep and then go for a switchback. And then Max was too smart for that. He would just slow his car down enough on the apex and get it done. So Piastri really, I felt like it was really underrated that he used the right amount of aggressiveness against Max to then use Max's racing against him, it was so smart. I think I will add that Lando had the luck in the sprint race, clearly. I do feel like Piastri had more of the luck in the main race due to the collision with Lando that obviously put him behind, because Lando then took, I think, about 5 seconds-ish out of him, or maybe slightly more of the race till the end of the race, which, appreciate, over an entire race is not a massive amount, but we've got to remember they're in equal cars and they're fighting for a title. So Lando clearly had the pace at Miami. But yeah, Piastri, that one really intelligent move on Max effectively won him that race because of the gap he then had to Lando. So
I agree. I do think it was a decent weekend from Lando Norris. I think, his pace on those hards in the second half of that race was great. He was closing Piastri down, as you said, and I don't think he did anything dumb. There was no bottles. It was a decent weekend from Norris, actually. It's just so interesting seeing the two different ways that those McLaren drivers approach Max, and I really it's amazing to say that Piastri, because even look at Jeddah as well, like Piastri just made sure that Max wasn't ahead at the apex, and then he's like, cool, like, you're gonna jump off the track and get a penalty, see you later. So he just feels like he has it under complete control against Max, and Norris feels like the opposite. It almost feels like Norris races Max to try and make Max look bad, or to try and make Max get a penalty so he can moan about it over the radio. That's almost like how he goes racing, as you said, trying to go around the outside of turn 1 and get him off the track. Like, that was always going to happen. Piastri doesn't do that. He's like, well, there's no point. Max is going to shove me off. I'll just, like you said, force him into the mistake, let him lock up, go deep, see you later, switch back, see you later, buddy. I'm just going to get on with the race. I'm not going to try and make him look bad.
You know what I was thinking, though, was that Max aside, ignoring Max for a second, I feel like Piastri just has a better understanding of the current rules and how you're allowed to race. And I'll go back to Monza last season, where Piastri sent it up the inside of the second chicane and Lando kind of cautiously backed out, not wanting contact. Piastri went on to finish ahead of him, I'm pretty sure. And that was the defining move. And it's kind of like, I want to delete Max from this conversation, and I really want to see what we saw in Miami, but play out between the McLaren drivers, because I do think Lando is the quicker driver of the two of them. I so far this season, that's harsh on Piastri, because he has driven better for sure. But I would love to see it, because I think Lando has the pace to get him, but I think Piastri will defend extremely firm like Max does. And I think you'll see shoving off the track and maybe a bit of tension between the two drivers. I just think Piastri just has it down better than Lando does. Lando's more of a passive driver.
Yeah, well, sign me up for a bit of that. I'm sure we'll get it at some point this season. We haven't really seen it so far, have we? But it's bound to happen at some point, surely. So that sounds great. But yeah, so staying on Racecraft then, but moving on to some different drivers. So first of all, we're going to talk about Liam Lawson. So he was actually involved in a couple of incidents this weekend. First of which, of course, was in the sprint, where he deleted Alonso out of the sprint. So I don't know. I do think he was potentially shoved off the track by Alonso, possibly unfairly. It was very marginal. Again, regardless of the right or wrong of whether the rule should exist, the rule does exist. If you overtake him on the outside, you have to be ahead at the apex. It was. I think he may have been possibly, but it was very marginal. They were pretty much level. So I can understand him being annoyed that Alonso shoved him off. I get that. But then you have been shoved off, and you're now pretty much completely behind. If you floor it back onto the track, what was going to happen was always going to happen. So, in that situation, I actually think the Lando Norris strat of moaning over the radio would be the right thing to do, because he possibly did have a case that he did get shoved off. But then what was essentially an unsafe rejoin, literally just said, oh, in which case then I'm going to yeet you out of the race, sort of thing. And it's just that's just dumb. Like, no matter which way you cut it, that's just dumb. You know, he obviously ended up getting a penalty for it, I believe, but it could have DNF'd him. It could have damaged the car. We're in a cost cap era. It's just not smart. And then the other one on Lawson as well was turn 1, lap 1 in the main race, where he went around the outside of Jack Doohan into turn 1. Well, actually 3 wide. He went through the middle. Outbrake Doohan, fair enough, but then just squeezed him like mad on the apex. And what's Doohan supposed to do? You've just outbraked him on the outside, fair enough, but he can't disappear. You've then just squeezed him and left him less than a car's whip to what would normally be the racing line. So Doohan has to take to the curb, and then they ended up colliding from it. And, I think that eventually resulted in both of their DNFs. It's like, what is Lawson doing?
Yeah, it's like one, right? It adds to that point is why? Why would you not just at least have a bit of caution in the position you are? You're not fighting for the win, you just have a bit of caution. Crazy. And Alex, I don't know about you, but it feels like yesterday that we've been talking about Lawson in the Red Bull seat. And now, honestly, I'm looking at him has he got a number of days left in his actual F1 seat? Because he's having a shocker. He's having a shocker. surely we know how brutal they are with their drivers. They've surely got to be looking into a replacement for him already. I'm going to go straight out and say it. He's just. There can only be a certain amount of races that you have these kind of incidents and kind of driving that add to the fact that Hadjar is just consistently ahead of him on the timesheets and on in the races. It's just like, yeah.
I'm not aware of someone that would replace him though. If they had like an upcoming superstar that they desperately wanted to get into F1, I could maybe see it. But beyond that, I don't know. I think it would be harsh to get rid of him. I think he just needs more time because he's shown flashes of that he could be pretty decent. I don't think he's a Max Verstappen, certainly. I don't think he's an Isaac Hadjar, honestly. But maybe that's just Hadjar's, shown himself in glory at the first part of the season. That could easily turn around. But I don't know. I don't think he needs to be binned just yet. And I don't think they've got anyone to directly replace him. So surely, hopefully, he's safe for at least a while. Because I think being already would be harsh.
If they did, would you be surprised if tomorrow they were like, Liam Lawson's gone, lost his F1 seat, to go from Red Bull to V-Carb to no F1 seat in that space? That
would be so brutal. That would probably be the most brutal sacking in F1's history, to be honest. That level of demotion then to just you're literally sacked. I wouldn't be surprised because it's Red Bull and we know what their driver choices are like. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I would also be shocked just because it's so mean. It's just so like bad. It's such bad treatment. You know what I mean? Like it is. Like, I know they're not there to be buddies, and I get that. But like, if you've got a young driver program, you've got it for a reason. You need to allow these drivers to develop. So like, if you throw them a couple of races, throw him under the bus, throw him in his feet on the fire, whatever the saying is, and then sacking him a couple of races, it's just ridiculously. It's just not how you need to go about developing drivers, is it? So it would just be stupid.
Logan Sargent at Williams got 2 seasons, I think, 2 entire seasons. True. James Vowles was under loads of pressure, and after an entire season of bad results, was like, no, we're sticking by him. We love Logan, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's completely the polar opposite with other teams. But
and although he was eventually fired, he was saying the right thing, wasn't he? As you said, he was trying to give him confidence and give him plenty of time, but they probably did let him go on a little bit too long. But very, very different situation. But anyway, so staying on Racecraft. So we've got the last corner move between Sainz and Hamilton. So obviously, there was lots of Ferrari stuff. We'll get to that stuff in a second. But let's just concentrate just on that. I mean, dive bomb from Sainz. I don't love that word, but I think it's pretty appropriate for this situation because look, it's the last corner. I kind of get him going for it, but like he just wasn't close enough, was he? He just wasn't close enough into the braking zone. He's then. I don't know, he didn't really outbrake himself, and Hamilton definitely squeezed him. But I just think, I don't know, Hamilton could have given him more room, but I don't think he needed to. It was a bit desperate from Sainz. Look, he could have DNF from that, which, like, these points for Williams are crucial. They need these points desperately. They could have very easily both been in the air and in the fence from that. So, I don't think, if that was for a win, if that was for Williams' first win in, like, years and years, I kind of get it a bit more. It's maybe worth taking a risk, but like for an extra couple of points, when points are so crucial to Williams, I just felt like it was a bit of a dumb dive bomb, bit of a Braille move, as Martin Brundle likes to say. What did you think of this, George?
I disagree. Look, it was a dive bomb. No one can say that it wasn't Sainz's fault. Clearly, it was. Again, I watched a really interesting analysis of this. So someone played Hamilton's penultimate lap, final corner, when he was under no pressure and took the normal rating line, versus the final lap. And you'd be amazed if you see the different car placement that he used. He turned in probably like 50 meters early, like really early to the corner. He kind of took like, if you imagine an F1 car going into a corner like that, a hairpin, left-hander hairpin, break in a straight line, and then obviously square off the corner. Hamilton kind of went. He braked in like a diagonal line towards the corner, so he that's why like his car was in the middle of the track way earlier than it should have been in the corner, which still means that it was Sainz's fault into the corner, but it makes his dive bomb look a lot worse because Lewis effectively just slammed the door shut by taking a completely different line. So yeah, I don't know if Sainz got penalised for that because I saw that he went and saw the stewards afterwards, so I could be wrong.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good. I was going to say, I'm glad he didn't because I feel like that was, it looks a lot worse when you just watch it on TV and you're like, what is Sainz doing? But then when you actually look back, Lewis definitely was a part in that collision happening with the way he went into that corner. Because I mean, you don't blame Lewis, do you? Because if he hangs it around the outside and kind of does a Lando Norris approach of I'm just going to let you dive bomb me, then he probably loses the position with Sainz just squeezing him or something. So you could understand it, but look, I like it. They're there to race. I like Sainz. I'm a fan of Sainz. I don't know. I agree with you. I guess for a P8, you could argue in that Williams that is going to score more points this season. Do you want to take that risk? But even so, I like that he went for it. It's fair play. He took maybe a little debt to settle with Hamilton as well with the whole Ferrari seat thing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that was his old car he was dive bombing, wasn't it? That's an interesting angle. I like that. Yeah, I don't know. I just think he just wasn't alongside enough at the end of the day. Like, I think Hamilton was very smart because technically it wasn't moving and braking because he just turned into the corner. It's not like his line was going to see him, yeet all the way across the curb and stuff. Hamilton was smart in the way he did it, but it was clear that he did, change his line, should we say, to defend it. And I just think, if Hamilton took his normal line, maybe Sainz would have just smashed into the side of him and spun him round. Regardless of what happened, the move wasn't really on from Sainz, and sometimes you can force a move, but he didn't do that. He wasn't alongside enough. It was too late in the corner. It didn't work for real life racing. So I think the outcome was good. I think regardless of whether Hamilton moved a bit and made it a bit worse, I think the fact he did that and maybe allowed them both to survive, I think is the right outcome. Whereas if Hamilton took his normal line and he got yeeted, we'd have been really annoyed. So I'm not going to blame Hamilton too much for it because at the end of the day, I'm actually surprised that they had quite a lot of contact and there was no real. It was almost like F1 game physics, wasn't it? They were sort of just pushing each other wide, just staying in contact. There was no punctures. There was no, no car going in the air, no real bodywork going. It was a bit crazy how that didn't result in a bigger crash. But I'm glad it didn't because I don't think either of them deserved that.
Yeah, I do want to add as well on the note of Sainz and the whole Williams thing. Not a single person has talked about Alex Albon, my driver of the day, P5. Completely under the radar, drove a brilliant race. I thought Albon was fantastic. He was clinical with his overtakes when he needed to be, and he just kind of didn't really mess about. Sainz made the odd mistake, which ended up costing him to both Ferraris, I think, when he fought Leclerc. And Sainz actually should have finished higher than P9, in my opinion. So Albon, Williams overall as a weekend, they can be really happy with it. The pace of their car looked really good. Albon scored some big points. I think he can be really happy with his race. And yeah, like I said, no one really mentioned him because of everything else going on. But I think for me, he was a driver of the day. He just drove the perfect race for what he had.
I agree. He definitely deserves a shout out because he was behind Sainz at one point, let's not forget, and just seemed to have better race pace. He beat both Ferraris. Williams should not be beating Ferrari. I don't think anyone would have predicted that going into this season. So, yeah, it was awesome. I think in terms of driver of the day, mine's got to be George Russell, just pure skill. No, I'm joking. It's not George Russell. He was very lucky.
I'm glad you're not doubling down on
that. Honestly, I think it's just Oscar Piastri. I know it's a bit boring to pick the winner, but he started fourth, let's not forget. I know he got a little bit lucky maybe at the start to capitalise on the drama, but he did have to overtake Antonelli on track. He had to overtake Max Verstappen on track, which is no easy feat. I know he lost a bit of time to Lando, but managed it perfectly, no mistakes. I think Piastri absolutely nailed it. He had another great weekend and extended his championship lead. Not perfect, but very good.
And also as well, you look at the sprint race, he was clearly unlucky there, like fair play. The only reason I don't go with him is because if he'd have eked out more of a gap to Lando when Lando eventually passed Max, I would be like, right, he's the quickest driver. He smashed it. It's fair play. Purely because of that, because he wasn't the fastest driver. That was Lando. So he had that bit of luck back in the race with, like I said earlier, with the collision with Lando. So that's the only reason I've not gone for him. But fair point. I think he actually did win driver of the day, right? I think Piastri did.
I actually don't know. I was going to ask you. Did he?
I think he did. Yeah, in the end, it announced right at the end of the race. I believe Piastri won it.
Yes, he did. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Piastri did. Yeah, I want to give an honourable mention as well to Kimi Antonelli because although obviously he struggled a bit more in the races and stuff, but out qualifying George Russell both times, I think, both qualifyings. Really, just really good weekend for me. He was super fast. Clearly a little bit more polish needed there. Racecraft stuff needs polishing up because it wasn't amazing overall because of the races. But overall, just really good weekend from Antonelli, and I was super impressed with it. I think this is the first time we've seen. I was going to say the full potential, but obviously in the races he didn't show his full potential. But in terms of because he's always been one of the better rookies, but that weekend, this weekend was unbelievable. I mean, sprint pole, like who saw that coming? Like, amazing. So
I think
fair
it
play
can
to
be
him,
understated how consistent and strong George has been. So to out-qualify George in 2 sessions back-to-back is very, very impressive. Not to mention the fact that he got his first ever pole. Youngest ever pole sitter, I think. Sprint pole, fine, but I'm counting it. It's still the same.
I want to count it because fundamentally it's the same, isn't it? The qualifying is pretty much identical. So
and you know, like I think with Antonelli, sprint race, fine, he got shoved off from Piastri and whatever happened there is history. But I think in the main race, he kind of, it felt like his inexperience kind of cost him with the tires. He didn't have the pace to George, and he was making too many mistakes, and I think just put too much through his tires initially, which hurt him. And I think if for example, one of the McLarens had done that, or Max or whatever, they'd be getting criticized for it. I think Antonelli gets away with it, and rightly so, because of his inexperience. But I would say, if it wasn't for that, I'd be feeling really, really bad for him, because I felt like he was just outright unlucky this weekend, even in the race as well. But that just on the tires and that bit of race inexperience, which he needs to gain, I think. I think that's the reason why you kind of look at that and you're like, he's clearly an unfinished article, obviously. Things for him to work on.
I think the good word for Kimi Antonelli is promise. That's what he showed this weekend, like getting that pole and stuff. Like, real good potential. He showed really good promise. Yes, he's not quite there yet, but as you said, we could all forgive him. It's only his 5th, 6th race, whatever. So like, it's still pretty early, really. So I think he'll get there. I actually really like Kimi Antonelli as well, as like a person, how he comes across. I really like him, the way he comes across in interviews and stuff. So I
think.
But anyway.
I'm sorry, I was just going to add. I think Antonelli would have still finished ahead of George as well, despite what I said about the tyres, if it wasn't for the VSC luck that George got. I think, could be wrong, but I thought Antonelli was ahead of George before that.
Possibly, but then because how hard he murdered his tyres, I think George probably would have got in by the end, and Mercedes would have told him to get out of the way, probably.
True.
We'll never know. But speaking of team orders, let's move on to Ferrari then, where again another Ferrari weekend, wasn't it? So obviously the main thing is their team order stuff. I mean, what the hell was that? Like, absolute shambles. Do you know what? They did the right things. They just did it 5 laps later than they should have done both times. I just don't understand it. Why are you saying, when Hamilton was clearly really quick on those mediums, why are you letting Charles Leclerc lead? Like, just let him go. Just say to Charles Leclerc, look, we're going to let Hamilton go. We'll see if we can go get the cars in front. If he can't, we'll let you back past because he's got good tyres right now. Or maybe your tyres will be fine and you'll catch him anyway, in which case we'll swap, blah, yada, yada, yada. That was a complete no-brainer. Not everyone likes team orders, but it was a no-brainer to do that in that case. But why the hell didn't they do it straight away? Honestly, I think it would have been better if they never did it. If they just decided, look, we don't want to do team orders today. We're too risky. Whatever the reason being, I genuinely think that would have been better. Although it definitely made sense to do the team orders, I think it would have been better because they ended up just wasting both of their times. Because then even when they did it back as well, similar sort of thing. Leclerc was clearly quicker, not massively so, but quick enough that maybe he could have got to Antonelli and overtaken him. But again, they waited so long that his tyres are overheating, his tyres have started dying. And also, because they did it twice as well, because they're in decision, I mean, they have to lift to do it. It costs them race time. So what they ended up doing was making both cars lose about a second to give a position to the other car. They both did it. So they cost themselves 1 second of race time in total for Ferrari for both cars. So just a shambles, wasn't it? I know it's not exactly a wild point of view there because everyone thinks the same, but it is an absolute shambles, isn't it?
It was complete memes. It really was, and I disagree that they should have just not had no team orders. Hamilton caught the back of Sainz and Leclerc so quickly. I don't know what the Delta game was, but it was like you didn't even notice it at the time because he just flew up to the back of them. At that point there, once he gets past Sainz with the turn one, side by side that he had with Leclerc, at that point there, just release Lewis. It's perfect. Let him go. He'll catapult off into the distance. He almost certainly would have got to Antonelli. And you're right, if Leclerc then comes back to him, because don't forget, Hamilton would have had a much bigger gap to Leclerc, in which case, does Leclerc make it back to him on better hards towards the end? We'll never really know. He was obviously quicker, but I don't think he was a massive amount quicker. But yeah, they clearly would have gained so much more time from it. And it's shambles. I worry for Ferrari because you kind of look at them now and how long... This meme's been going on for God knows how many years. We've been laughing about their strategy team for years now, and you're thinking like, if they don't do a McLaren next year and absolutely smash their car, I mean, they're not winning anything for ages. They are a shambles. They are an absolute shambles. And Lewis finally kind of like, it almost felt like this was like Lewis's kind of weight lifted at the team. He just lost it, didn't he? He was going nuts over the radio. I think he said afterwards that he apologized to the team, and he was kind of like,
no, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I do think he was possibly over moaning. He was completely right, because he was right that he should have been let go. But like, I just feel like, he doesn't do himself any favors. People say he moans too much and stuff like that. I think he could have gone about that in maybe a smarter way, and just be like, look, guys, are we gonna do this swap or not? Because like, I'm obviously quicker right now. Like, we can swap back later. Just if we're gonna do it, let's do it now, or don't bother. Like, really just put them on the spot, and then that's it, and then just let them decide from there, rather than like, pretty kind of, yeah, not in as many words, but like, I just think he needs to be a bit more brutal with them, and but then that's it, rather than just like continuous like, guys, what we're doing, guys, this is silly, whatever he was saying and stuff. So, but I really, especially the sarcastic one at the end. What was it? Oh, do you want me to let Albon through too? I was so good.
Yeah, and also he was like, he was like, have a tea break while you're at it as well. It's
yeah, that was great. It was I love that. So, do you know what? I really like that, because Hamilton doesn't tend to show that kind of personality before, really. Like, but I've really liked it a lot, because it was sarcastic, but it was also, it was playful, it was fun. I don't think it was disrespectful. It was just, I think it was great. I hope we see more of that kind of thing, because that was fantastic.
I feel like Hamilton had a pretty I think he was pretty underrated this weekend in general. I think he was quicker than Leclerc overall. Obviously, towards the end of that race, different circumstances. But qualifying, he was 600ths off Leclerc to get knocked out in Q2. But that was with a huge lock-up final corner that cost him 2 or 3 tenths. So he had the upper hand for pace. Yes, of course, Leclerc crashed, which we'll get onto as well in the formation lap, or whatever. Not the formation lap. They're getting to the grid before the sprint race. So that meant that Leclerc obviously had no time in the car while it was being repaired, and fine, whatever. But Hamilton, I think, was really good, and obviously in the sprint race as well. If it wasn't for the unfortunate safety car timing for Lewis, he may have even won that race. They nailed it with the pit stop timing. I think him and Max went around the similar lap. Obviously, Max then got the wing damage from the unsafe release, so Lewis could fly past him, and it would have been really, really interesting to see how that would play out versus the 2 McLarens. But unfortunately, we were kind of robbed from that from the safety car. But yeah, I thought Lewis actually had a really good weekend, despite the kind of result that would tell you otherwise.
Yeah, I do agree. I think Lewis was solid. I mean, I don't know. It's easy to say, oh yeah, but if he didn't lock up, but he did lock up. The important thing is to nail a lap in quali, like so. But I do agree. It was a decent weekend from Lewis. I just think it can't really be overstated, because everyone knows that Charles Leclerc is a genuine champion in racing, effectively. So I think if Lewis can match him at the age he's at, then that's incredible. I don't think anyone was really expecting Lewis to come in and dominate or anything like that. Like, that was never going to happen. So yeah, really good weekend. And I do got to give a shout out to Ferrari's strategy in the sprint. Obviously, maybe not with the Leclerc aquaplaning, going out on inters. That was maybe not the smartest. And apparently Hamilton almost did the exact same thing, by the way. Apparently he literally was pretty much on the same line, but his car just happened to grip up just before he hit the wall. So they almost had both cars out, because they sent them out on very wet conditions in inters. That was crazy. But in the race, they were pretty brave. Yeah, Hamilton was struggling at the start, so they sort of needed to try something. But they were one of the earlier ones. I think Tsunoda was maybe the first, but he was literally right down the back. So it was a no-brainer for him to try something. But Hamilton was in the points when they pit him. So that was a brave decision, and it worked so well for him. And again, fair play to Hamilton for making it work, because the whole track wasn't dry. It was a dry line and stuff. So, and yeah, maybe he could have brought the fights to the McLarens. Feels unlikely, bearing in mind what we ended up seeing on Sunday, how dominant they were in race trim. But yeah, it was a decent strategy from both Ferrari and Hamilton. It was driven well. A good weekend all in all from Hamilton. I just want to one more topic before we move on to our off topic. That's the Lego cars that they drove around on the drivers' parade. How good was this? I saw some people like saying, "Oh, it was disrespectful." They spent so much time building the cars, and I get that,
really?
but like, I don't care, because look at the moments it created. Look at the amount of, like Lego. I'm pretty sure Lego built this, right? It was a Lego thing. So like they wanted to get as much exposure as possible. They got 10 times the exposure because the cars got a bit smashed up. So like they're not going to be complaining, surely. And it was just so, I love this kind of thing. I've always said, like, but I think back in like Senna days, they occasionally used to do like race on a maybe even before that, on an F1 weekend where they'd go out in like a, they'd all get Ford Escorts or something, and they'd go and have like a bit of a fun race, all the drivers in the same like effectively spec cars. You can't really do that these days, but that's sort of almost what they ended up doing. Obviously, it wasn't really about pace, but they just let them all have similar cars and just let them have fun. And I loved it. It was so good. They were all able to show their personality. Great moment.
Yeah. I was literally dying when the Alpine, it was Gasly and Doohan. I think Gasly was driving, and he was literally pincering Leclerc and Hamilton in the Ferrari straight into the wall, and to the point where like they went sideways and everything. It was hilarious. And I watched like they Sky put out like a mini documentary on how it was all come together, because obviously it's clearly a massive project with millions invested, and they didn't even piece the Lego bricks together. Like they did bit by bit, but they glued every single piece. So all of those millions of pieces of Lego were glued together, not just stuck together.
And they still managed to break it.
And literally, one of the interviews was like, one of the guys said like, "Oh yeah, we have to glue them because the last thing we want is this going everywhere on the track." And then it happened anyway because it just crashed.
Amazing. That is absolutely incredible. I don't know how you replicate this though, because like, to be honest, if they just do it again next year for Miami, that'd be great. But you can't do it every week. I just felt like it was just such a smart thing to do, because Lego could have just built a Red Bull and had it in the paddock and just like, oh, look how cool, because it is pretty cool, right? Being a life-size F1 car, it's pretty cool. But they went, no, first of all, let's build all 10 cars. Second of all, let's make them drivable, which I think everyone, I saw these, I thought, these look cool. I never in a million years dreamt they would be drivable. And then getting the drivers to go out and do the parade lap. It was just genius. It was absolutely genius to get them to go out and do it. And it was honestly, it was honestly, some of the best non-racing things I've seen on an F1 weekend in a long time. It was so good.
And they had like it was I don't know if they showed this live at the time, but again within that mini documentary they showed like a whole metal chassis that was designed for it, and the aerodynamicist or expert behind making that then had to like be implemented into the Lego structure. So it was absolutely incredible. And this kind of like filters into my opinion of the race weekend as a whole earlier, because look, we're obviously not going to get 16 more years of this, but clearly Miami can offer something different, something special, which as much as I am a racing purist and I want to watch good racing, that was great to watch. I mean, you agree, loads of other people agree. I've not seen much negativity about it. So yeah, bring it on. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And yeah, definitely Lego must have done well out of that, surely, because like
the amount of exposure they got from it is a joke, because it's also genuinely cool. Like they built some cool cars. It's not like they were terrible little, like almost like kids sized cars or something. Like they built genuinely an impressive project regardless of it, the exposure they got and the fact they drove and stuff. So yeah, it was cool. But yes, anyway, well that's about it for us for F1 today, but we have got an off topic, which of course is the London Marathon. We're recording this on a Monday. It's been just over a week since I ran the London Marathon. And it was I'm actually all right now. I've still got some blisters on the ends of my toes, which is not the most fun thing I've ever had, but they're not too bad anymore. It was so hard though, man. It was unbelievably hard. I mean, I had a knee injury about 5 weeks out from doing I tried to match my fiance at the gym on leg day, which is never a good idea for a girl that trains legs a lot. That was a terrible idea. I did match her, but I paid the price, and basically ended up with a tight muscle. Took me a while to diagnose it, go to the physio and stuff, and ended up manifesting in a knee issue. So it took me a while to kind of figure that out. That was actually not an issue at all on race day, but that was the first run that I'd done in weeks where I had no issues with the knee. So that was lucky. Little bit of, skill in there in terms of, getting the physio in and the work I did the night before and the days leading up to it and stuff to get there. But so that was absolutely awesome, but it did heavily affect my prep. So my longest run going up to race day was 28 kilometers. Marathon's 42 kilometers. So 14K short of the distance, which affected me. It really affected. My legs were destroyed. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And it's genuinely probably is my greatest achievement, finishing that race. It sounds weird to say because, like, you know, millions of people have done a marathon, right? Like, it's not like I'm the only person to have done it, and it's impressive because it's such a human feat. Loads of people have done it, and I was a hell of a lot slower than the elites and stuff. But still, when you're out there and your body is screaming at you to stop. You know, the only way I can really describe it to people who haven't experienced this before, because I've ran, you know, a lot. I did 80 kilometers over 6 days as part of training. Like, I've done a lot of running. I've done, you know, lots of half marathons and stuff. Like, I'm not new to running, but still, I wasn't prepared for what it was like on race days. I think only really marathon runners know what it was like. But the closest I can get.
I was just going to ask, sorry, did you get to a certain point within the marathon where you hear the cliche a lot of pushing through the pain barrier? Clearly you had to do that. Do you remember roughly, like, was it literally like halfway through you were dying and you just pushing yourself for that long, or like where was it really challenging?
I basically went out a bit quick, but actually what I ended up realizing is my fitness was actually higher than I needed to be. I think my fitness probably could have carried me to maybe a 3:15 marathon. I was trying to go under 3:30, and I had a B goal of under 4 hours. I ended up doing it at 3:45, which I'm very happy with. So my fitness was really good. So I went out a little bit quick, but actually I was comfortable. I was in zone 2 of the 5 heart rate zones for the first 2Ks, and zone 2 is generally your sort of conversational chilling pace. So I was going a bit quicker than I'd like to have done, and that probably did affect me a little bit. But yeah, basically just before halfway, a couple K before halfway, I was like, I seem to be fading and we're not even halfway there. But at that point, I was like, I'm going to hold the pace till halfway, because it was actually a half marathon PB as well. So hold the pace to halfway and then just, you know, try and hold on thereafter is basically what I did. So I did that. I slowed down a little bit after halfway, but not much. And it just faded. And you know, I was saying before, I think the only way I could describe to a non-marathon runner what it was like is push yourself to the limit and then push yourself to the limit. To the limit, repeat like 4 or 5 times, push yourself to the point that you cannot push anymore, but keep going, and then go again and go again, and then run an extra 5 miles. That's basically what it was. So you feel like there's nothing left, you feel like you've exhausted yourself, you can't possibly go on, and then you've got another 5 miles to go, which is just so hard. So yeah, I blew up pretty heavily, particularly in the last 5K. I think I've worked out, I walked 12 times, I think it was in total, and the walks were getting more and more frequent. I mean, literally in the last 10K or so, I started adopting, I don't know why I made this up on the spot, but I started adopting walk 100 meters, run 900 meters. So just 1K repeat, just like, you know, you can reward yourself with a walk every 1 kilometer. Just walk 100, run 900 to more or less the pace I was doing before. A little bit slower at the start, but like the pace I should have been able to do. So I tried that, and honestly, I would walk 100 meters, like force myself to get going again. I would, and genuinely about 300 meters into the 900, I'd be destroyed. I'd be like, I want to walk. I can't. How am I going to do another 600 meters? That's how hard it was. I was genuinely like, wow. Even though I know I'm allowed myself to walk in less than a kilometer, I was like, I don't think I could do it. It was that hard. I eventually decided to have an extended walk and then slow down, which definitely helped. But
mate, it's an insane achievement. So obviously you can be proud of that. I hope that if you haven't already, I hope that you've gone back in your Twitch live stream and read some of your VOD, because it was hilarious. I joined about halfway through your live stream. So again, for viewers and listeners, Alex had a tracker on him, like I don't, was it from your watch or something, like an app?
Phone,
So there was a live feed to see all of your progress, heart rate, etc. Some really cool stats and like your average pace per kilometer and that kind of stuff. You also had a camera with you as well, which I think you recorded at the start and then towards the end as well. So it was really cool to watch. But the one funny thing with the tracker was that when you were going through, I don't know which part of London it was, but there was part where there were like skyscrapers and clearly loads
Canary
of
Wharf,
yeah. And it was hilarious because you were literally just running through buildings and running off the course, zigzagging about on the tracker, and everyone was having a good laugh about that. And at one point, I think you were running in the river as well. It was great. It was good fun. And then obviously we saw you at the end, turn the camera on, and just like completely fully gassed out. Just get it to the line, and it was great. It was good to watch.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it was a good stream actually. I managed to stream most of the first 15K or so, and then as I started dying around halfway, I was like, right, I'm just gonna have to put the camera away for a bit, because I was holding it in my hand, which was actually all right. It didn't particularly tire me out or give me a sore arm or anything like that. It was all right, but I was just like, okay, I'm declining here. I need every kilojoule of energy that I could possibly get. So I was like, guys, I'm just going to put the camera away for a bit. And I ended up putting it away for like 20K because I was just like, I just have to. That's when I started walking and stuff. I was like, I have to go. And then that's when I got to the last few K, and I was like, right, I've done all this work to set all this. I literally took me days and days. I think probably about 3 days of work to get that stream over the line, because it was a lot of work. I had to custom build some stuff and that. It was a lot of work. So I was like, I've put all this effort in. I can't just not do any video. I was like, the last few K, I've just got to get the video on, just deal with it. And I was struggling. But to tell you what, I didn't expect though. After I crossed the line, and I guess it's not a surprising thing. I just didn't expect it from myself, was to get really emotional, because I was really emotional, actually. Not directly crossing the line, just the feeling afterwards. Because it's like the only way I've been able to sort of figure it out is because I'm not a massively emotional person. I know it's a mad achievement and stuff, but it was, I don't even know the word to describe it, but it was just like immense, overwhelmed actually is the word. It was just being completely overwhelmed, because I'd exhausted my body way past what I thought was possible. I'd pushed harder than what I thought was possible. I'd just done something that I don't get me wrong, I'd never dreamt of doing a marathon. It's not a lifelong goal for me, but like I just don't know how I just did that. And then to finish it, obviously the great feeling of finishing it, but also the absolute exhaustion that you've got. And I was very nearly in tears, genuinely, after the line for like 20 minutes afterwards, like literally holding back tears for like 20 minutes straight, because I was just like, and I don't even know, it wasn't elation, it wasn't exhaustion, it wasn't a specific emotion that I've felt before. It was just like, it was literally like not really knowing how to deal with my feelings, to be honest, is probably what it was. Like, I've got my body is doing crazy things and I don't know how to deal with it, so it's making me emotional, is probably how I can describe it. And when I saw my fiance and gave her a hug, I did have a little cry then. It just, like, obviously seeing her after all that was pretty special, because also I had to walk like...
Yeah, was she there just as you crossed the line?
No. So there was like a kilometre I had to walk. It was the slowest kilometre. I genuinely think it's the slowest I've ever walked. It was because of my knee. Although it's fine when I was running, what I did is, like, after the finish line, I stopped for about 10 seconds and my knee seized up and it really hurt to get walking again. I was like, right, I can't stop. I've just got to keep walking. So I was hobbling along so slowly, and I was like, I know I've got to go there. And it took me so long to get there. So it was literally about 20 minutes, I think it took me to walk this kilometre. It was so slow. So it was a little while. And like I said, that whole time I was really like holding back tears. Like, I was really quite overwhelmed for that whole time. And then just obviously seeing my fiance kind of brought it all back
as well. Were there fans cheering? Because I saw I think it was Ben's girlfriend Carla. I think she put up a video of them cheering you on as well on the last stretch, and you could see there were so many people just going nuts for everyone crossing the line, which was great. And I did wonder, because I'm sure viewers would love to see that POV as well, that we saw you on the stream cross the line, but then you can't, because we're just on your face, you can't see anything else going on. So it's like, was it just piles of people going along for like the whole rest of the walk?
Yeah, I think with hindsight, it was a mistake. I was showing my face because of the pain I was going through, and I was literally wincing, and like, I literally started going like, I was literally like shouting just to be like, this hurts, and I need to express it in some way, because it's like, I cannot tell you how badly I want to stop right now. So I just literally kept going like, But yeah, actually, weird, across the line, there wasn't that big a crowd really, because spectators can't come in the bit just after the line. So around the actual finish line itself, there wasn't many crowds. But do you know what? The rest of the course, it was a really unique feeling, just to have so many people that genuinely just wish the best, especially in London. Like, London's not the friendliest place in the world. But to see thousands upon thousands of people, because basically you get your name printed on your top to encourage the cheering a little bit. And I was going to get Alex, but I was like, loads of people called Alex. If someone's cheering for me, I want them to cheer for me, not an Alex is behind me. So I got Gillen on my top. And there was probably, I don't know, like 50 or 60 separate people that were like, go on, Gillen, sort of thing. It's quite a special moment. They see you, and especially if, you're having a little walk, they really, because I was walking along next to the barrier, and they're really like, God, you can do it. Like, come on, you're doing so well. Like, the feeling of that support, I don't know these people, but it was just so special to have that much. The best moment of the race, though, other than obviously seeing the people, my friends and family, was around Cutty Sark, around there, because it was like the only way I can describe it is felt like being on the main stage of a festival. It was that like mad, like the amount of people and the noise. It was so loud. It was like almost like a, it was just line either side, but it was like 4 or 5 people deep, both sides, and just all just like going, come on. It was just like, I was just grinning the whole way through. That was also before I died, which I think helped. It was about 10k in, but that was unfortunately the stream died down there because it was so busy. There was no internet, but it was so special going around that bit. Tower Bridge was another special one, but yeah, the support was absolutely unbelievable. And I actually remember, obviously seeing your friends and family is always special. But I actually happened to catch a glimpse of my fiance Nell's mum just about a kilometre from the finish. So at that point, obviously, just nothing left. Just like, but I'm not going to stop now. I'm 1k there. I'm there. I've got to do it. And actually, Nell was just behind her, as in like before her in terms of where you run the race. To sort of 4 or 5 people to her left. And she was shouting my name, but I just didn't hear it. And then I think they shouted just loud enough that I happened to look, and I saw Nell's mum. And I think that was the start of the emotion actually for me. It was like going through all that and that much pain, and just seeing a friendly face. It made such a big difference, just seeing someone. And I think it's partly the way she did it as well. She was literally like fist clenched, and she screamed like, "Come on, Alex, come on, you can do it!" Like really, really passionately screaming. And I was going to finish anyway at that point, but I felt like I needed that still, just to have that level of support. And they live in Devon, like they come up there just to support me essentially. So like that was a real special moment, and I think that's what started triggering the emotion. So it was the support. London Marathon was it was such an experience, and anyone who's remotely considering, I know there's a less than 1 in 50 chance of getting in on ballot. It's very unlikely, but if you've got the opportunity, grab it both hands, because it was just
that's
special.
A point as well. You're a Guinness World Record holder now as well, right?
I am, yeah. I've actually got anyone watch the video, I'll go grab the certificate. Hold on. Here we go. If you watch it on video, you can now see the Guinness World Record. I've paid £35, by the way, this costs. So expensive, but £35. I'm officially a Guinness World Record holder for being a participant in the biggest marathon ever, the biggest number of finishes in a marathon ever. The reason I paid it is because it's probably my only opportunity ever to get a Guinness World Record, and also it'll be surpassed, I'm sure, in probably only a few months' time. So I was like, taking the opportunity with both hands. Let's be a Guinness World Record holder. It's definitely a unique.
That's going straight in the LinkedIn bio. That one.
Yeah, officially a world record holder. Let's go.
Right. One question. You've done your marathon now. You've probably done, I'm not very clued up on global marathons, but this has to be up there and one of the pinnacle marathons to do, surely.
Yeah, it is.
Would you, number one, would you do it again? Or would you do the London Marathon again? Or would you do a marathon again?
Fantastic question. So I'm a fair weather runner. So you have to do a lot of winter training because the marathon is at the end of April. I didn't like it at first. I actually ended up not minding too much. Once I got the right kit, I had like a rather than like a cap, I had like a beanie hat. It wasn't beanie. It was made of the running material, polyester, whatever it is. But like that sort of thing helped, and like then finding a right hoodie, all those sort of things. And I didn't mind it in the end. But my motivation all through, particularly winter training, was I'm doing the London Marathon. It's a 1 in 50 chance. I've gotten very lucky or unlucky to get into it. But like, if I do myself proud, I'll only have to do it once. I'll never have to do a marathon again. That was what got me through, particularly the winter training. Get out there, do the mileage, because then you'll never have to do it again. And obviously on race day, I was like, I'm never doing that again. That was horrendous. I remember actually, I stopped to see friends and family at 18 miles. And again, Nell's mum said to me, I told you it was awful, wasn't it? And I went, yeah, this is proper bad. Like, this is really awful. And I still had 6 miles to go, or 8 miles to go at that point. I was like, yeah, this is really bad. So obviously then was saying, no, I'm never doing that again. That was awful. But as always with these things, you then calm down a bit, you recover a bit. And I don't feel like I definitely could have gone quicker. I don't feel like it was a missed opportunity. I mean, I actually said on the stream, once it was clear I wasn't going to hit my target 3 hours 30, which I was on for at halfway. I was like, but I genuinely said, I don't care. I genuinely do not care. All I care about now is getting to that finish line, because I don't feel like I can do that right now. I don't know how I'm going to get there. Still got 10K to go. I don't know how I'm going to do it. So I just forgot about it. And I was genuinely working out my head. If I walked from here, what time would I get? Because I still wanted to get sub 4. So I was like, and I was working out at what point I could start walking to the finish or whatever. That's how bad I was struggling. But so 3 hours 45, I'm genuinely happy with that time regardless, but obviously wasn't my aim. But it's not really the time that motivates me. What motivates me is using the knowledge that I gained. So what motivates me to do another one is using the knowledge I gained from that marathon in another marathon to be able to improve, basically, which I guess is the racing thing, right? Like, that's typical of racing, isn't it? You always want to improve, you want to get faster, you want to, break a bit later or, take a different line. It's the constant strive for improvement, and running's sort of similar, really. So, yeah, because I think two key things. I think prep wasn't right, largely because of a knee injury, but still didn't get the mileage in. That's partly why my legs died. But also, I think, a little bit quick in the first half. Would have been interesting to see if I didn't go that quick in the first half. I don't think that was instrumental to the death, but I'm sure it helped a little bit. And then also fueling. I thought I got my fueling down, but actually on race day, so you have, I don't know if you know, you basically have gels. So they're literally they're sort of like a super concentrated Lucozade Sport, essentially, is what they are. They give you the carbs and sugar and electrolytes. So you're meant to take them every half an hour. So I think I needed to take, 6 or 7? I think I only had like 4 in the end, because my stomach was not very happy. I practiced taking those exact ones. I'd done everything right, but I just had a bit of stomach cramp in the race at some point and was worried about that. So just didn't fuel quite right, which I think definitely contributed. I should have had more and earlier. So I think with those lessons in mind, I definitely think I can get under 3 hours 30, and then get to the point where I feel like I've done a marathon to the best of my ability. You can always train more. You can always go faster. The world record is 2 hours. Not that I'll be able to get that, obviously. But like I could probably, with a hell of a lot of hard work, I could probably get down to, I don't know, 2 hour 30, say. I'm not dreaming of that.
30?
Probably because, but I'm not dreaming of that at all, because like you'd have to do probably 120 kilometers a week every week for like 20 weeks leading up to it. It's just stupid amount of mileage. It takes over your life. I don't want to. But I could get under 3 hours 30. I could probably get under 3 hours 15, maybe sub 3, but I just don't know if I want to commit to doing that. So the potential's there. I definitely think, sorry, it's a long answer, but to answer your original question, I'm definitely considering it. I think I probably will do another marathon. Probably not the London just because of the odds. It was a 1 in 50 chance when I did it, and even more people have applied for next year's. And I didn't apply for next year's because I didn't want, with being so unlikely you're going to get it, what I didn't want to happen was me to get it twice in a row, and all my friends and family who also applied for it didn't get it, and I just get lucky. They'd be so annoyed at me. So I was like, I can't do that to them. That'd be so annoyed. So I didn't apply for next year. I probably will apply afterwards, unless I've done a marathon where I go, that's it, I'm done now. I don't want to do a marathon again. Because honestly, it's a horrible distance. It's a horrible race. It's so far. Half marathon is a good distance. Half marathon is like endurance. It hurts. It's not easy, but it's like doesn't completely kill your body. So I probably will do another marathon at some point. It probably won't be the London just because the odds of getting in are so slim. But we'll see, because it's gonna hurt, and it's literally like, why would I put myself through that? Why would I give myself blisters on my toes and make it so that I can't walk? And do you know what I mean? Like, why would you do that? All the training it takes, but I just feel like maybe there's some unfinished business there, a little bit. But if I never do one, I probably will. But if I never do one again, I won't be too upset. It's not like I'm like desperate to achieve a goal that I would just missed or something like that. It's yeah, we'll see. Probably though.
Fair play. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. While you were doing it, mate, I was sunning myself down in Spain with a beer and a barbecue. I was
That's
watching you do the marathon, feeling like the laziest guy in the world. Just barbecue food in front of me, beer. Just yeah.
Well, how about you for running? Not a marathon, but you don't run at all right now, right? Would you ever get into running?
I've never been into it. I mean, I used to compete in taekwondo, and I played football like my whole life as well. So I've always been quite sporty and fairly athletic. Especially when I relate to the pushing through the pain barrier stuff in taekwondo, like going for like black belt gradings and things like that. Is obviously designed to be really tough. So I had those moments in the past. I can't relate to running a marathon because I'm sure it's excruciating. I never would do that. I was always a sprinter with football as well. So like if you try and get me to a gym on a treadmill, I'm done after 5 minutes. Not because I'm gassed out, because I'm just bored. I hate it. Mindlessly running with like, I think maybe a marathon, if it was like the London Marathon and you've got people going nuts and stuff, if there's a goal in sight, maybe it's better. But I've always been quite competitive. So I think for me, probably would rule out long distance running.
Running is, I think, in some ways quite addictive though. Because, yeah, not on a treadmill. Treadmills, it's really boring. Don't do it on a treadmill. But like for me, like I live sort of somewhat in the countryside, so I get to go out in, you know, on a beautiful sunny day. I'm out in the countryside on it's a tarmac lane, but like there's no real cars around me. I'm surrounded by fields and greenery, and it's just lovely. And I genuinely enjoy being out there. It's almost an excuse to get out in the sun when it's a nice day. So for me, that's it. And I think it's addictive because like the gains are almost never ending. It's like the more you run, the fitter you get. So the more you can run, the faster you can go. And it's like you can pretty much get a PB like once a month if you train, you know, continuously. So it is quite addictive, and it's what I love about it as well is there's so many levels. You know, my first run back after the marathon was a couple of days ago. I ran a park run with Nell, and Nell's just kind of starting to get into running again. So her fitness isn't amazing right now. So she was pushing for a sub 30 minute. My PB on the 5K is, which is park run, is 5K. My PB is 20 minutes, and I would typically do it without pushing in 23, 22 minutes maybe. So to do a 30 actually for me was really slow. In fact, I think it was my lowest heart rate ever on a run. It was really easy for me, which was
Wait, did you actually stay with her and run with her the whole time?
Yeah. I was trying to pace her, but she was struggling to. Well, she was just struggling, and then this is my point: is it's there's so many levels to it, in that the people around me at the time, I was obviously chilling, but no one else was around me, so they're still like, you know, really panting, really out of breath. They're pushing the hardest. They're 10 minutes slower to what I would be to that time, but they're in the exact same situation. They're still pushing to their limit. They're still struggling to keep the pace, etc., etc. So, and what I will say as well, 5Ks are, although they're a lot shorter and they don't hurt your legs as much, that is a completely different kind of pain. When you're pushing for a 5K PB, it hurts so much because you're properly at the limit of your cardiovascular system. So you're breathing so heavy, and you get 2K and go, I can't do that from 3K. Surely I can't. And you get to 3K and go, no, I need to walk. I have to walk. But it's because you're so out of breath, your body's screaming you to stop. It's completely different to the marathon, completely different, but it still hurts like hell. Going for a fast 5K is not fun either. But you know, the sense of achievement when you do it is immense. And you know, you don't go for PBs every week, so those pain moments are worth it for a PB, and the rest of the time you're going out for maybe a half push that's just, it's tiring, but it doesn't hurt. It's satisfying to still be able to get a 21-minute 5K or something. So yeah, you should though. I'm not giving up. I reckon we can get GB into a little bit of running, especially if you end up moving a bit nearer me. We can go out for a few runs together in the beautiful sun. Go out for a cheeky little 5K or something out into country lanes. Well, there we go, guys. That was this, as always, fairly long episode of the Downforce Debrief. We told you at the start we were wafflers, didn't we? Right at the start of episode 1. So there you go. They're always probably going to be over an hour. We've got F1 to talk about. But yeah, anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to drop a follow on whatever platform that you're listening on. We will try and in the future, if we're missing an episode, we will try to make sure that we're telling you in advance. To be honest, that was just naivety from us. I was in London doing the marathon. GB was in Spain. I don't know why we didn't realise that we were clearly not going to be able to do it last week. But yeah, I don't think I probably should. With that, I probably should check my calendar right now to make sure. I don't think there's anything. No, there's nothing going on for me next week, so I should be able to do the marathon. Not the marathon, hopefully not. Do the podcast at a similar time. So we should be back next week, guys. But yeah, drop a follow if you haven't already, and we will catch you then.